Welcome back to Every Second Killin' It. My name is ESKI, and today on episode 1, I have a special guest. You might know him as the namesake and leader and everything else of the one-man metal band Dead-Habib, vocalist and guitarist of the bands Embrace the Noose, Frontline Howitzer, Lichen Frost, also as the owner of Razor Solution Records, and also just happens to be a part-time comedian. Please welcome to the show, Habib Behain.
What's up?
Thank you very much for coming down today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So you just released a new EP.
Yeah.
Available on Bandcamp.
Yes.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Link is below.
Yeah.
So this is almost like is this a preface for the next full length album? Is this supposed to be like a taster or a teaser for the next one?
What it is really just with it, it's just kind of me kind of stepping back into it's just the EP is just really a vehicle to kind of show people that I'm back. It was kind of a taster just for the concept, because as you saw the title of it's called Lonewolf Despairing Return. The new full length, I'm actually going to reveal the title. It's called Despair That Takes a Toll. There's kind of a despair theme, so there's an EP for that kind of talks about my return, and then the next album kind of goes into that. It's they're completely separate things. None of the songs from the EP will appear on the full length. It's just it was my reintroduction of coming back, because I was pretty much like I was playing shows and I wasn't doing any new music for a while, and I went through a lot of personal things, and when I started getting back into music, I felt like I needed to kind of come back with, before I came back with a full length, I felt like I needed to do an EP first before I do anything else.
It's a lot of commitment to just go full length.
Yeah.
Because that's being a one-man metal band. Yeah. It's a lot of self-critiquing. You don't get the luxury of going one song at a time. Yeah. You have to have a presentation ready.
And also a lot of it was because I was also rebuilding my recording stuff. So I wanted to do an EP first just so I could just,
test the waters
and feel more comfortable, especially because I'm using a brand new program, brand new stuff. Well, some of the old techniques I did, it was just that, but now I'm kind of in a much interesting spot where I have where I wanted to do an EP instead of doing because this is also not only do I do a lot of the recording myself, this is the first time I actually mixed and mastered, so that's also why I decided to do an EP first.
It's kind of scary, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to so I wanted to do something the EP is the first attempt of me actually not just recording but just mixing and mastering all together, so it's just like everything really was there. So
it's a lot of hats to wear.
Yeah.
But you start learning a lot about the process.
Yeah.
And the more you learn about the process, the more you're able to plan ahead with your recordings.
Yeah, and also it gives you a blueprint of what to do, what not to do, and things like that. So that's why I did the EP but at the same time the EP is a very if anybody who has heard it, it is a very devastating EP. It's a very aggressive EP. It's a very nasty EP, and I don't really hold anything back. And and also with new music, there's a whole brand new look to Dead-Habib. The fire that I've always had, that was at one point, it's finally it burns brighter than before.
Do you feel like at this point in time, is it like a reinvention of yourself, or do you feel like it's a better version of what you were before?
I feel like it's a combination of both. It's kind of a rebirth. It's a reinvention, but also it's there was a period where I was really stuck and I was going through a lot, and I was really doubting myself if I was going to come back, because of what happened was I got a new laptop and all my stuff just failed on me. And so so I lost the luxury of recording for a while. And even though I was doing all these cool bands and stuff like Embrace the Noose and Like and Frost and, Frontline Howitzer, DSBM was always in the back of my mind. And I always had these songs all written, but also with a lot of things going on in my personal life at the time, I was very depressed. And so I was very, I went through a lot. And, and I hope when people hear the EP, they hear that anytime you've heard any Dead-to-Habib release, you could hear that there was a lot of pain that went into it. And especially with this one, you could tell that there was a lot of pain into it as well. And even when you hear the Embrace the Noose album, which is also on Bandcamp, that also, like, you could hear it even more, because that's just amplified to like 10, in a sense, like. But yeah, it's kind of a rebirth for me, because when I rid of the old look that Dead-to-Habib had for years and years and years, and came out with a whole brand new look with the whole new music, because I knew that with the new music I needed to come back different. So that's why the whole look changed, because the music changed, and also me as a person changed. So,
that's something that you see bands like Slipknot do.
yeah,
Like, where, the masks, the music is a reflection of a point in time.
Yeah.
Even so far as maybe even the jumpsuits, like how they
Yeah.
decorate them.
yeah,
And so, obviously Iowa, you got the goat on the
Yeah.
side, but every cycle, if you go back to the same outfit, like Kiss, don't sue me, Gene Simmons, I'm sorry. It doesn't feel like you're moving on. It just feels like you're continuing.
you're kind of, yeah. To tell the truth, it was just the thing is, you mentioned how it did a certain cycle during that period of time. Each Dead-to-Habib album came from a really different point in time in my life. Beautiful Noose of Barbed Wire was during the time, right, was during a really dark period in my life back in May of 2012, leading into the summer, where basically I was very suicidal and wanted, after I got kicked out of cosmetology school and was struggling to find a job, the only thing that was helping me through was death metal music and black metal music, and of course Slipknot. They were helping me through it, and there was a period where I was very down and out, to the point where I considered taking my own life. The second album, Envy Replacing Serotonin, talks about the girl that I was in love with that I basically lost. The EP kind of reflects how bad that affected me. But with this new EP, it talks about, like, what I had to go through during that period of time, and having to, like, come back, and how I came back from, after all the despair I went through because of that specific period and all the craziness I went through during that time frame, to come back and become somebody new. And also, I had to go through a lot of bad shit in order to, to find myself again, and to be in a much better place and be at a more peaceful place.
And it's hard, because stuff like pain does bring out, it can bring out some amazing art, but unfortunately you don't appreciate it at the time, because it takes the experiences to be able to reflect upon it. So after it's done, and maybe you're working on the next album, you can reflect on the stuff you have written and go, my material now, like, I could see the growth in it. I could see how.
And the other thing most people don't know is that I already have the blueprints for everything else already written.
Yeah.
It's just originally I was supposed to do a record that was themed on misanthropy, but there were other EPs and albums that came in between that. So, and the misanthropy record is where I kind of, as I looked at it, is like, I look at every record before the misanthropy record ever comes out, as kind of a blueprint of what made Dead-to-Habib what it was.
Yeah.
And then once I do the misanthropy record, it's kind of just like this is who he is, you know. So it's kind of like it's kind of a blueprint of just like different things, you know, and also just shows like versatility, where the first album had a lot of black metal elements, death grind elements, metalcore elements. With the second album, Envy Replacing Serotonin, is very driven by melodic death metal, and same goes for the newly written Suicide Note EP. And then with this one, I'm kind of went back to the black metal, but I also incorporated a lot of doom, and death metal.
Yeah, because I noticed was it the One Man Purge that has like that kind of really slow, kind of heavy.
Yeah, very. If I could describe it, very incantation like. Very incantation and mortician type of thing.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
But more, but a little bit more, not super basic. But you could hear like it is basic. It's very simple, but I feel like what makes a difference is just the fact that I have a breakdown for the chorus.
All right. Cool. All right, so Habib.
Yeah.
You have been a very essential member of this very special group that has, when I was doing In Silent Agony, welcomed me with open arms.
Yeah.
We have this little tight-knit group of one-man metal bands.
Yeah.
When did you first get started in that?
Well, truthfully, the way that started was, well, with DSBM, it goes back to how DSBM started. I was a sophomore in high school when DSBM started, and I went to Los Alamitos High School. I still live in Seal Beach and all that, but everybody in that area was not really into metal. They're all into classic rock and pop punk and Sublime. And so I have really not a lot of people to play with. And so I started writing songs on my own. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do shit on my own. And for the few metal people I did know that did play, they were very picky about what they wanted in metal. And it just wasn't working out.
Like, if it wasn't thrash.
They like, well, it's like, put it this way. There was one guy, and I've mentioned him before, but where he was very obsessed with Slayer and Meshuggah. Very obsessed with Slayer, and he wanted everything to be like Slayer, but when it came to my influences, he just put it down, and he wanted to talk about politics because he's all about politics. And for me, I'm not into politics very much. Because I'm very based off of like my favorite singers and my favorite vocalists and lyrics came from people like Brandon Shapetti of Bleeding Through, Corey Taylor, Glenn Danzig. You know, maybe even like I could say Alyssa White from The Agonist / Arch Enemy. You know, I like a lot of, you know, because like the things I talk about are like things that I experience in my own personal life.
Yeah.
Whether if it's about love, suicide, depression, hell, even once in a while I'll throw in a song about straight edge. You know, things like which I don't do often because I don't really talk, because that's always been a weird topic for people, and just because like that's a whole topic that I you know, it's just because a lot of people always ask me about the X's in Dead Habib, and that's what it represents. That actually points out that I'm a straight edge it's a straight edge band, and it always has been, you know, even with all the craziness I talk about in the lyrics, because the thing was with Dead Habib was just that when I started, it just happened by the fact that nobody wanted to be in a band with me, and so I started this. And then after a few failed attempts at bands and just things not going my way, I just said, fuck it, I'm going to just continue doing this and run it, and just run the course with it and see where it takes me. And it ended up taking me to a lot of interesting places.
You know, and one of those things that it eventually led up into was the One Man Metal Fest.
Yeah.
Which you, from the very first one, you helped organize and were a part of, and have been a part of since its inception.
Yeah. Yeah. The way it happened, was I got a message from Lord Ogan of Shortfoot. He says, I'm doing this One Man Metal Fest, and I want love for you to be a part of it. And I'm like, I'm fucking down. And prior to that, Richard of Dying Messiah and I had done some shows together, and he's been a big person that helped me a lot and helped me just being supportive and was there for me and gave me advice and just was kind of like a big brother to me. And we've been doing some shows, and we talked about that randomly once, and then it just happened that this happened. So I told him about it, and he got on. We got Through These Gates on, and another guy named
Michael Pendergrass.
Yes, and
What's
then
up, Michael?
Yeah, and then we also had Diclonius, which is Mikey Ortega,
Yeah.
and opening the whole thing. And that was the thing about that first inception that nobody could ever take away from the five of us is that, here's the thing that most people don't realize is that it was on a Monday, and we managed to get people to come out to that one. And a lot of the people who came out because of myself and Through These Gates.
Yeah.
Because the crew that came out were the members of Imprint Throne.
Yep. That's how I.
And also, what most people don't know, Mick Kenny of Anel Nathrak was at that show.
Oh, wow.
and I've met Mick numbers of times before at other shows, a lot of Bleeding Through shows, and he also wound up at a show, a Which Is Right show, because he produced some of their stuff, and the Which Is Right was playing at my friend's shop, which is and so we end up becoming friends because of that. And he's always remembered me. And I saw Anel Nathrak play at Malone's, and he said, I always, you know what, you could grow a freaking beard and I could still recognize you. So, but no, like I was a part of that. That first one's very special to me because it was like all the hard work and just like, it just happened. It was just magic that night, and because there was, the turnout was not huge, but but the fact that people came out was cool.
Yeah.
And that's what led to the second one, and we got a really interesting lineup for that one, and and we had a few other shows where we had one-man bands with you being one of them, and but I really went out of my way to promote the hell out of that first one.
Yeah, definitely, because it was the beginning of something.
Yeah, it was the beginning of something special and something that I wanted to have it grow.
And you know what's awesome, though, is that in order to organize one of these shows, you don't have to contact a whole lot of band members.
Yes. Yes, that's the best part about it.
No phone calls back and forth. It's like,
No.
you answer me, yes or no.
Yeah. It's that's the benefit about being in a one-man band. You don't have to answer to anybody other than yourself.
Exactly. And so that's cool because my introduction to the one-man metal bands was I went over to Mirror Image Studios. Imperial Throne was playing, I think it was their CD release show.
Yeah.
And so Michael was playing that show,
Yeah.
Pendergrass.
Yeah.
And so, it was one of the first times I was like, oh, you can do that? That's cool. Hey, he has a fine beat just like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so, I didn't really get to talk to him that much because I didn't know him before that show. But
Yeah.
my friends were, I was friends with Brian from
Yeah.
Imperial Throne.
Yeah.
We went to high school together.
Yeah. And Brian's a fantastic guy, and I still talk to him. Like, I run into him a lot, so.
Like, I've known him since he had hair.
Brian had hair?
Oh, man. In high school, he did.
Yeah.
And he's in a pop punk band. And I will never I will always tease him about it to this day. See, I have a podcast now, and you're still hearing about it. But, it was really cool because it was really encouraging to go, okay, I all these songs I've been writing, I've been doing, with obviously with a little bit of practice, a little bit of rehearsal, I could go out there and do this.
Yeah.
And then I started to meet all of you guys because when I first played a show, I just started getting back into shows again. I played a show with Richard.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool to meet him.
Yeah.
That night. And then I think the second one I did was at Blacklight District, and then the third one was when all of us played the
at the Doll
Hut again.
Yeah.
So it was you, me,
Mikey,
Richard, and Daisuke.
Yeah. From Divine Era. Yeah.
And so it was really cool, and it was also cool to meet another Japanese metal guy. So
yeah. Yeah, and that night was fun too. Like that seriously was a cool night as well. Like that was and especially Russell, who put that show together. Like, he asked me, like, what should I call it? Because I don't want to, like, ruffle feathers. And I'm just like, dude, just call it a night of one-man bands. That's probably the best thing to call it, because, the one-man metal fest thing, that's Lord Ogan's thing. So
Yeah.
I told him, just call it a night of one-man bands, so... because it's just that when you get a bunch of them together, it's like, what can you call it? so yeah.
You can call it the fastest load-in time ever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the best part about it. You don't have to worry about. That's like the quickest. That's the best thing about one-man bands. If you want them off the stage quickly, they are off the stage quickly.
And you know what? So. Correct me if this is untrue.
Yeah.
So, because we're a one-man band, I heard that, or I saw, I don't know if it was on Facebook, but basically, like, you were able to jump on a show and play a show,
Are you talking about the D Piazza show that happened?
Yes.
Oh, that whole situation was just that was just a weird coincidence, by the way. No, what happened was that I went there because two of the bands that were playing, one was Insecticide, which Sherman runs a studio out in Gardena, a rehearsal studio that Embrace the Noose rehearses at, and always has been a great guy. And I saw that he was playing, and I've never seen him play before, and I was really stoked. But then I found out that their they had van trouble. And Mark, who owns D Piazza's, has known me for years. Actually, my very first show was at D Piazza's, and I've been friends with the owner ever since. He said, "Hey, do you have your gear with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can you open the show? Our thing fell off." I'm like, "Yeah." Then that's what happened.
Yeah, Mark is awesome.
Yeah, Mark is amazing.
Like, I remember when one of my old bands, a band called Reckoning Days, this was probably 2004.
Yeah.
And, there was only a couple places where you could go and play shows.
Yeah.
You had Hoagie Bar Michael's.
Yeah.
You had.
I've even played Hoagie Bar Michael's as well.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Right
my
by
very
the
first
airport.
all ages show I ever went to was at Hoagie Bar Michael's.
Was it through Breakthrough Entertainment?
No, this is 2002.
Acropolis RPM?
I don't remember who it was. I just remember that we were there to support my friend. My sister said, "Hey, you want to go to an all ages show with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, just support this guy." And I don't remember what was the promotion thing, but I always remember that was my first taste of like live music, and I fell in love with it after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it was such a destination to be able to play, because it became one of those places where, they had set nights where they had shows on. Like Tuesdays or Thursdays or something. If you're a local band, and they had the local band showcase.
Yeah.
If you're a bigger band, you got to do the weekends.
Yeah.
But it was cool because it was a place that was almost in between people. It was off the
Yeah.
freeway.
Yeah.
It was easy for people to get to.
Yeah, and hell, like, there were spots that, like, I'll tell you this, like, I was stoked when I got to play it. I told my sister, "Hey, I'm going to be playing Hoagie Bar Michael's," where, if you remember, and she's like, "I got to come see this." And so my sister and my mom and a lot of my brother-in-law and my sister's ex-boyfriend, they all came out to support me, which was really cool. And I played in front of a bunch of cool metal bands, and a lot of them I became friends with, or they remembered me from those years, and they were just it gave me a lot of props. And it's funny, I ran into them, I asked them, "Hey, did you play in this band?" It's like, "Yeah, I don't know if you remember me, I was the one-man metal guy that wore the fucking mask and played," and they're just like, "Oh my god." They still remember me because I left a really huge impression those nights, just because back then it was just vocals and guitar, but I was very I was one of those guys that left a huge impression wherever I went. So
I've been telling my girlfriend the best description that I can usually give about myself is, or impression is, that you might not like me and you might not like my music or what I do, but you won't forget me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's almost like you're betting on yourself. You're like, "Yeah, this is me. It doesn't matter what you think of it. You didn't forget me. You still remember. You still."
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even if the only thing people remember me is I'm the guy who wears a mask and has doll heads on stage, that's fine with me. because that's people seem to remember that, which is like something I still do. I still have the doll heads and everything. So
it's part of your history,
Yeah.
your legacy.
yeah,
And so it's like, and then it becomes like a talking point. Like, hey, I remember when I used to come see you when you used to do all the doll heads.
Yeah.
Because when did you stop doing the doll heads?
no, I still do the doll heads.
Because I remember you had them for the
show.
the doll head show and all that.
Yeah, well, I still do them. It's just that there was like one or two occasions where I was just like, I wasn't. I didn't feel right, and I just decided to do it. I decided to scrap it for one night. But I've always had them. Especially I would bring them out for Heartless Bastard, and then I would bring them out for that song. But then eventually, I just kept them on stage just so. It just gives the aura or the vibe of the show.
So, what influenced the doll heads? Al Snow?
No, as much as that would be great, I would love to say Al Snow but which I'm glad people will reference. But like, no. What happened was
What do you want?
No, actually,
Don't answer that question.
Actually, what happened was I did a battle of the bands.
Okay.
And it was actually the promoter's idea to say, it'd be cool if, I know you're by yourself. Maybe you should just get some mannequins or something to be on stage with you so you're not alone. And I thought, I have these doll heads. I'll use these. And then I hid them behind the amp, or I put them next to the amp. And I just remember all the bands that were there for that battle of the bands all came in the front, and they were just like, what is he going to do with these doll heads? And then when I pulled them out, it just became a part of the show, and it stayed since then. They've been a part of the show since then. So, and it became kind of the doll heads became a euphemism for especially the song Heartless Bastard.
Yeah.
Because that song is very based off of that song was my life in a nutshell. I was the guy that most people it's very obvious I was extremely bullied, and I had a lot of people who made fun of me. Whether it's me pursuing a Pacific girl or just, and I use the doll heads as a representation of them.
And they get a song dedicated to them every time you play.
Yeah. Yes. And I loved and of course the best part is when I get to do the ending of it, which I yell, fuck you all at the end of the song.
Right on. So, I got a question about, I want to go with the performances right now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Dead Habib song to play live?
Favorite DSBM song? It's a tough one. It comes down to two, and it comes from the first album, which is Death March of the Forsaken or Illusions of a Pretty Face.
That's my favorite song.
Yeah.
I like the little spoken word intro.
Yeah. Those two came. Death March of the Forsaken went from being the intro to the set to the ending of the set. And it gets people going, and it's just a straightforward song. And you just it kind of sets everything up. With Illusions of a Pretty Face, that's kind of that's where a lot of my Bleeding Through and At the Gates influence came from. And also just that song was written basically off of was the catalyst to why there is the story that's in the second album and the newly written Suicide Note EP, because the person I wrote specifically about that song was what inspired all that.
And I imagine the illusion part is pretty fun to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fun. It was basically my two favorite, two of my favorite bands were a big influence in writing that song, because that's what the title was and it's also just because people used to tell me personally, when I would tell them I love this girl, and they're like, it's just an illusion, it's not even real. And that's where a lot of that came from.
Yeah.
And the spoken word part in the beginning was me being influenced by Blinded by Fear of At the Gates, where he says we are awakened, the intro part where he
beeping and
yeah, but mainly it's the wording part of it that always stuck out to me in that song.
Yeah.
and then it's set up into it. So
Right on.
yeah.
Right on. All right. So, we've been here sitting here talking about doing the one-man metal band thing.
Yeah.
But you're also part of a duo,
Yeah.
Frontline Howitzer,
Yeah.
and part of a full band, Frost.
Yeah.
So, what's the difference between, when you get up there and you do it all yourself, and then when you actually go up there as a duo or group?
Well, with DSBM, what makes it different is just the mindset for me is different. Because with DSBM, I go in there and when I put on the mask and now when I put on like the makeup and the mask, I become somebody else, and I'm very focused on being like as what my friend Rick from Nothing But a Nightmare, and also plays in a really killer band called The Returners. He described me as a one-man metal machine. Like, basically, like, DSBM is my vehicle of airing out a lot of my feelings about how I felt personally. But when it comes to being in a band and being with other people, I could still do that, but I do it in very little doses. Like, for example, with Lycan Frost, like, there's a lot of people in that band, and it's a fun, good time. Even though we're playing black metal,
Yeah.
and it's still a good time, because I have some really good player. A lot of the players that are in that band came from punk rock bands.
Yeah.
And, so they bring something really different to it, which is really cool. And it's unique because of the fact that, like in Frost was something I was trying to start a long time ago, and I had a lineup, and then the lineup fell apart. And so when I met James, who was the drummer, he was the first key puzzle to it, and we became friends ever since, and we're still friends, and the band still exists. It's just that we've had a tough time because life, gets in the way and stuff like that. And there was a period where we had a handful of shows, and for anyone who came out to those shows, or any of the footage that people have seen, because I filmed a lot of our shows that we had, it was a fun thing to watch because it was black metal, and then there was like a crust element to it, and there was like a sludge element to it. So it was something cool to watch, and we all kind of had like this, we looked like like for me, I was doing the typical, corpse paint and blood all over my face, and everyone else looked like they were about to start a riot where, they would throw smoke grenades out and
You get the bandanas.
yeah,
on.
the bandana. Yeah,
yeah.
that was the image. That was what it was basically, because it was basically the way I described it is I was with the stuff I endured personally. I kind of was put as a scapegoat by the person that inspired a lot of the DSBM music. So the way I described it was we were the front line of a scapegoat and rioters.
Huh.
That's the way I describe it. And actually, I have lyrics to something called that I hope down the line to, if me and James, if we make time and we get together and write some songs together, I would love for us to not only do our first release that I've been wanting us to do, but hopefully do more. But it's just a matter of we had to part ways with our second guitar player, and we still have our bassist, but it just depends on. It's been kind of it's been a tough road for all of us, but we're all still friends. At least me, the bassist, and James, we all are still friends, and we were at James's wedding a couple months ago, and and that was a fun time,
And then, just like with any of the other life changes,
Yeah,
you get
and
married, and
yeah.
band isn't exactly the
Yeah,
priority.
and then with Frontline Howitzer, that's more of it's just me and Lord Ogan, and we come in, we have a Pacific thing that we want to do, and it's very tribal based. Like, there's a tribal feel to when we write, so and it's all about feeling with that band, and that has a whole aura around that too, and it can be an interesting aura sometimes. Like, it's very like, because when you have two one-man bands working together, it's very two different personalities, and but somehow the personalities meld well together to create something that sounds nothing like our other projects. And then, of course, Embrace the Noose, which is a even funnier, it started off as a one-man project, and then people started coming around it.
Yeah, because I remember, I think when you announced that, you had said that you did all the instruments.
Yeah.
And then you were trying to assemble a live band.
Yeah. Yeah. And then basically, originally it was just going to be a studio project. It was going to be a Lurker of Chalice, where it's going to be one album and done.
Yeah.
But then people got behind it and were interested in it, and and then eventually I decided to form a lineup, which the people I have in it are really cool people, and especially and I'll say each band that I've been a part of, there's always been other than me being like the driving force in it, there's always been someone who's been like the glue. Like in Frost, James is the glue.
Yeah.
Embrace the Noose, Felipe Silva is the glue.
Yeah.
And for anybody who knows who Felipe is, he plays in Inferatus, he plays in Birth, and he also plays in the Black Scorpio Underground.
Okay, right on.
And then of course, Lord Ogan, it's Lord Ogan.
Yeah. It's him.
Yeah, it's him.
Oh, right. Wow. It's a different dynamic, but it's also different because when it's not just yourself, you are giving a very focused version of yourself to the group.
Yeah.
So it's not, when it's not all about you.
Yeah.
You kind of let go of some of the crazy responsibilities.
Yeah, it's great because I don't have there's not a lot of hats in my plate.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it. It's like I don't have to it's great to have somebody else that, because the responsibility thing is like, even though I've done it for a long time with DSBM, it's nice to not have the responsibility for a lot of them, but with like, let's say Like in Frost, I do still take a lot of the responsibility for it. With Frontline Howitzer, it's more of the line of just like, he's booked a lot of the shows, but I've always pointed out, hey, here's these people we should try to talk to. Here are these people we should talk to. Like there's, it's things like that.
Yeah. And you can take on like a different role.
Yeah. Because I just want to focus on the music, and it's just like, because there's times where, when I'm not working, I usually have a riff stuck in my head and I'm trying to write it down so I could remember it. And, it's just, less with that group, I like the fact that I have more opportunity of focusing on playing than just,
you don't have to be the one that has to go over and press the play button and all right,
yeah,
I'm ready.
yes. I don't have to do that no more.
I think the worst was when I did something like that and I was playing and I'm pretty sure it was at Blacklight District, and I hit play and I think I missed one of, because I always do I add a 4 count.
Yeah.
And I think I missed one of them hearing it. I don't know if it was because either like the volume wasn't.
Yeah.
But it started like a hair earlier than I thought it was. And all of a sudden it's like, no, stop. Oh, go on. Try to.
Yeah.
It's always so like even in my recorded version,
yeah.
I'll have a 4 count, but I'll mute it for the song.
Yeah.
And then for the live one, I'll just unmute it.
Yeah.
And just because you go and watch a band, almost always it's this drummer with the 4 count.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm familiar with. That's my cue.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes for me it's just a matter of like I just know when to come in.
Yeah.
I've had enough practice where I know when it just comes in.
Like, all right, I can play the song with my eyes closed.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, so your 4th release as Dead Habib.
Yeah.
First one.
Well, actually, it's technically my 5th. Most people don't count my acoustic album. And in Metal Archives, they don't really account my acoustic album.
And if it's not on Metal Archives, it doesn't count.
Yeah. I'm waiting for them to update it with the EP because, I do think that the EP is much heavier than the stuff that's on there that they have acknowledged at this point.
So the 5th Dead Habib release.
Yeah.
4th metal Dead Habib release.
Yeah.
And first one through your new record, Razor Solution Records.
Yeah.
How does it feel to present your artwork in a different way now? Like,
it's different. I contemplated that for a while. It's just something that I felt like, I've done this long enough. I see all my other friends basically and people that I look up to that have helped me along the way. They basically started their own, and they're there to help me. And they've given me tips of what to do. And, and after having my interview with Tanner, he said it's not really that hard to start one. So it's just like, I was like, you know what, I had, why not? And I feel like it's just time to, because at this point, the whole point of having a label at this point really is just to make myself look more professional, and also to show that there's more value to who I am. And also just because you pretty much what you're what the label is really there for is to just help put out the record, really.
Yeah.
But you're still doing the DIY thing of studio and booking shows. And for me, I do that anyway. So it's just like, it's probably best if I put it under a label, and then all the bands that I'm associated with, but even though the main three that I will promote heavily is Dead Habib, Lycan Frost, and Embrace the Noose. That will be the main thing. Those are the three that will be under that banner. It's more to. It's really just focused on. It's good in the sense of it makes those bands feel special, and also like nowadays, so many bands are doing their own labels because it's probably in the long run better for them.
Yeah.
And it's also, you cut out like a middleman, and it's easier because because nowadays, like with people not going to shows and buying CDs like they used to, the cuts are so much smaller. And labels are not really. It's cool to be signed by a label, but it's just how much effort they're going to put into helping you out, because you're still doing stuff on your own.
And it's really different when you communicate with people as. It's like they look at you different, even if it's your own label.
Yeah.
They look at you different as a signed band.
Yeah.
Like, I started a record label about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I did it for about a year. And press and publications and stuff, they respond to you differently.
Yeah.
When you communicate to them as the record label owner.
Yeah.
And you get treated differently, and maybe not better,
but it helps a little. Well, it's like one of my influences when it comes to this is Werewolf of Satanic Warmaster has his label Werewolf Records. My buddy Rick of the Returners has Nothing But a Nightmare. And then just like, and of course, like freaking, I think, there's a lot of other people who have started their own labels that, like there's other bands that have started their own labels, and there's people who've went behind and went into the engineering aspect of it too. Which also is what was inspiring to me as well. So like, that's why also most people don't know I have a degree in recording. So it's like, and I know how to run, so cause I always loved the recording aspect of music too,
Yeah.
Like some of my favorite people who recorded was people like Scott Burns, Eric Rutan, just like some really, Dave Fortman, there's some really cool people who have recorded, Mudrock, who most people don't know, Mudrock, and there's one other guy. They were responsible for a lot of the early Avenged Sevenfold albums.
Yeah, because he did Wicked and the Fallen.
Yeah, and and just stuff like that. Like, because I like when I meet the producers, because I get excited about when I meet the producers, which is weird to some people.
You are a nerd like me. Did you ever used to open up the CD booklets and read all the credits?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I was one of those guys, too.
So one of my teachers when I was going to Golden West was Sean Sullivan.
Yeah.
Who was the engineer on This Is Love, This Is Murderous.
Oh, my God.
Ulrich was recording a history.
Oh, my God. That's
audio.
Bleeding. I love that album. And Bleeding Through is one of my favorite bands.
Love Lost and Hail of Gunfire.
Yeah. For me, well, if anybody notices, there's a lot of Bleeding Through in Dead Habib.
Yeah.
But also you notice a lot of Bleeding Through throughout any of the bands I'm in. Even though you don't really hear it, but like a lot of the most key bands that people hear from me that I have a lot of influence from is Bleeding Through, Dissection, and At the Gates.
Okay.
especially Dissection, because a lot of the melodic parts come from Dissection, and a lot of the, I guess you could say, a lot of my lyrical styles come from Brandon Chiappetti of Bleeding Through.
Yeah.
And Brandon's one of my favorite singers and one of the people I look up to, and I've met him a number of times, and he's always been cool to me. Even though like nowadays he scares the shit out of me because just the amount of how much he works out.
He's a lot bigger than he used to be.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah,
muscle-wise.
dude. Yeah, well, dude, like the guy, like, when I met him, the first time I ever saw Bleeding Through, he was like really skinny, and then every time I see him, like, holy shit, this guy gets bigger and bigger. But you know what? Good for him. And but also the reason I like him so much is because he told a real personal story in the documentary Wolves Among Sheep, which is one of my favorite documentaries. If you want to check out a really cool documentary, Bleeding Through's documentary, Wolves Among Sheep, pretty much has current members, ex-members. It talks about the whole band's history, but there's this one scene where Brandon talks about his history as himself and things he went through, and talks about his eating disorder and, how someone screwed him up. And I really related to that because that's where I found a lot of appreciation for him, but it was somebody I related to heavily. And, for him to do what he's doing is what inspired me to do what I do. And Brandon is a hero of mine, regardless of, even though, he, and I love all the stuff he's done with even the Iron Sun. So, and even the one record under the band name, Suffer Well, like even that record's amazing. So he's one of the people who inspired me heavily, lyrically and just wanting to have a presence, but also as an inspiration to, be yourself and show that vulnerable side to you, and talk about personal shit, because that's what he did.
Yeah, exactly.
And you feel it from him.
You do, especially the angry stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, I remember Bleeding Through. Oh man. I mean,
and I have all their albums, even Dust to Ashes.
The drummer on Dust to Ashes was the drum teacher of
Troy,
one of my brother's friends, Danny.
Yeah.
He used to play in a band called Killing Theory.
Yeah.
But I remember because it was the guy that was on the first album, not Portrait of a Goddess.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, you're talking about Troy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but that album was really cool. Those albums, like all those albums, still hit a chord with me no matter which one I play. Even the latest one is very good and very focused. And personally, my favorite album has always been The Truth, because that's where I noticed them the most. And the first songs I ever heard was from that Pacific album. And, Kill to Believe is still one of my favorite songs. And and a song that I really like one of my favorites nowadays I play is off of their newer one, called Remains. And that's an amazing song. So, and because the new album it's very focused and very just like it hits you like a sledgehammer. I recommend people checking it out. The album's called Love Will Kill All. That's a fucking good album.
So Habib, doing this one-man metal band thing, being on the stage by yourself, did that help lead up into your comedy career?
To tell the truth, I think just the comedy stuff happened on its own. It just
a lot of stage banter and
time. Well, because here's the thing, what I enjoy other than music, I have a lot of things I enjoy besides music. I love comedy. I always somehow, because of my personality and the way I talk about certain things and the sarcasm I say things, and just the way I just interact with people on, daily life, it makes people laugh, even when I'm trying to be serious. So it just, and especially even when I tell, for example, the best thing that happened, this happened last week. All right. So there's a guy I'm friends with, and he was getting very annoying, and he was, he said, I really like you, but I really I really wish you would not play metal. I wish you would play like rock and roll. Or I said, oh, you want me to be like you and play people-pleasing punk rock? And, and he's just like, people-pleasing punk rock. And then on top of that, I just said, one of these days, man, I'm just going to say fuck it and I'm going to kick your ass. And I said it with a very serious face, right? And I didn't take my eyes off of him. And he said, why are you so mean? And I'm just like, dude, you've been jumping around you've been acting like a jumping bean the entire time, and you're saying stupid shit to me. It's like, what am I supposed to say? It's just like, it's stuff like that, because like my comedy is just based off of my sarcasm. And I decided one day, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I did it the day before I left for my trip for France and Spain. And somehow I got people laughing because one of the comedians added me into their set, and then I just had a comeback for each one of them, to the point where he just said he quit, and then everyone forgot that I was the last person to come up, and then and finally I showed up on the set and did my set. And of course, I don't know what is it about fathers when fathers are trying to tell their sons about try to give them advice about meeting women, and just like, but it's like that seems to be gold. I don't know, especially when you tell them that they're lecturing you in their underwear, or they have no underwear, and it's at 7 a.m. But people laugh their ass off that. But then eventually, like,
I'm a dad, so I find that funny.
Yeah. Yes. But most of the humor comes from just the fact that daily life, I meet so many people who find that I wonder two things. One, how do they tie their shoes in the morning? And two, why did they even exit the house where they live? Because you realize, oh my God, they are so stupid, or they're so lazy, or they're another version of Peggy Bundy, and I don't want to be surrounded by that.
One word, slip-ons.
Yes, slip-ons. Yes, and it led to where like I started doing bits about like. I love doing bits about like basically like most of my shit comes from just me ranting, and that's where a lot of my funny shit comes from, is me just plain ranting. And at some point, and since I wear a lot of metal shirts and I have like metal references, I do have this bit where I basically talk about how I want to take every tool bag, douchebag, boy toy, human Ken doll, and what other things I decide to describe girls that I've liked in the past, they'd rather date than me. How I say I want to put them all in a church and just set it on fire, and that's one hell of a church burn. Things like that. Or my favorite, or everyone's favorite thing, everybody's like, I hear you have a shit list, but it's not just one shit list. You have like 3 levels of a shit list. I'm like, yes. And
different tiers.
Yes, different tiers of like the crime you commit. The best one of all is it's like level 1, you get thrown, very Middle Eastern of me, I decide to throw a shoe. Level 2, I kick you in the jimmies. And for equality purposes, I say the Madisons. And then level 3, if you're on this list, heaven forbid, you're in the human centipede. And every time I say human centipede, it gets a reaction. And for a long time, I was...
Do not Google that, please. Please. You didn't hear it here. Especially not the last one.
Yes. The last one, first of all, the last one was just, the reason it sucked is because they decided to make it American themed. That's why it sucked. Anytime you're ending, if you want to kill off your series, just film the last movie in America. You did your job. Because if they're filming it in the U.S., that's the last of the move of that.
That's as far as they made it.
Yeah, well, no, because think about it. Like, they'll go extreme overseas because it's very believable.
Yeah.
But then once it comes to the U.S., it's just like, really? It's like, think about the Hostel movies.
Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, think about Hostel. Like, freaking, the first 2 movies were overseas, and then the last one, that went straight to direct to video. It was in Las Vegas, and it became very cheesy, So it's just like it's things like that. And for me, I'm very No, like a lot of my humor like scares people, and at some point, people told me you're a musician, bring that in, and I did that for a while, but then I started running out of but then I got burnt out from it. You know, the thing that sucks for me, I love doing comedy and it makes me laugh, but sometimes I have to step away, and you know, I've stepped away a little bit from it because I found myself getting burnt out, and I wasn't really feeling it because it's all about feeling. I'm great at improvising, and that's where I get some of my best jokes. When I'm improvising, that's where I get my best shit. Because when I try to write down shit, it just doesn't work out. It's better when I improvise and just go off the walls.
Because then it feels rehearsed. Like it feels like, all right.
I feel like I'm forcing it, and I don't like forcing my shit. I like being relaxed. I like being kind of myself a bit. Like, especially, and even though I'm known as the dude who referenced the human centipede, I'm okay with that. I fucking love that. It's like, there's been times where, oh my God, it's the human centipede guy. And of course, you know, I'm Middle Eastern, I'm Persian. I do reference, you know, some hilarious Middle Eastern shit too in my set. And I've taken real life bad scenarios in my life and put it on stage. Like my favorite one of all is talk about how difficult it is dating, because you never know when you're supposed to go on a date and the date calls you at 4:00 in the morning just to cancel. It's like, really? You're going to call at 4:00 in the morning? Couldn't you just not show up? That's more polite than anything else.
You had to wake me up for this?
You had to wake me up for that? Yeah. That's been the best bit ever for me. I love that bit. And then, of course, some of my favorite bits is you know, it's just, you know, and somehow during some of my bits, I somehow managed to like squeeze in like a human centipede bit because it's funny because people seem to still freak out every time I say it.
So in music, you're the guy with the mask and the doll heads, and comedy, you're the human centipede guy.
Yeah. I'm either the human centipede guy or the guy, or here's another thing, I was known as the guy who threw shoes at people. Because I also threw shoes at people, especially people who refused to leave the stage.
Oh, okay.
Because there were people who would refuse to leave the stage, and also I'm one of those guys that I think what terrifies people is that I'm the guy who sits in front, so of course they're gonna reference me during my set.
Yeah.
In their set, and you know, and people who are not familiar with me, if they refuse to leave the set, I used to throw my shoe at people, and you know, so it's just like I find humor in a lot of shit, but seeing people's reactions, like, did you just really throw a shoe? Like, you can't come back from that.
And then it turns into Austin Powers.
Yes, that's
honestly, who throws a shoe?
Yes.
Random task.
Yes. Oh God, the shoe thing it always cracked people up, especially when people would reference me during their set. It's just like, you're asking for me to throw the fucking shoe. It's just like, I have to, you know. It's like you're challenging me on my masculinity, or you're trying to figure out what you could do to annoy me. So that's why I would pull out the shoe and throw it.
And I'm just gonna loop this back. The easiest type of shoe to throw: slip on.
Yes. Yes. Also, the best moment I've ever seen a shoe thrown was President Bush was in Iraq, and the one guy from Iraq threw his shoe and managed to somehow take off his other shoe, get his other shoe off, and throw it at him too. And he somehow dodged it. And somehow that became a hilarious. Like they made a hilarious video out of that. I think that's the best moment ever. You know, for anybody who had to watch ridiculous things from that presidential era.
It's just hilarious because by the time the second one comes around, he's like already he's ready to dodge it.
Yes. Yeah. But no, it's hysterical. And especially like another bit people laugh at that I've done is I like talking about Eskimo sisters.
My nickname being ESKI, I don't know if I should take offense or laugh to that.
No, because you know, there's not a joke, but it's like some sort of thing if a bunch of dudes have been with one guy or vice versa, they reference them as Eskimos. I always found that funny. I don't know what, it's just like, it's one of those things like, how did that even come about? But then when you hear it, it's really funny. You know, I've said that joke in front of females and they laugh their asses off, especially when you reverse it on females. Mm-hmm. Oh, they find that shit funny. And then, of course, I throw a lot of Persian stuff into my set, especially Persian words, and having to explain what they are is hysterical too.
Jeez.
That, and also I do greet the audience as "Hello, infidels."
You know, you're reminding me of
Ahmed the Dead Terrorist.
I kill you.
Yes. Oh, my mom used to make fun of me. You know what? I always would do like impressions of him, or because we love Jeff Dunham, and our favorite is Ahmed the Dead Terrorist. By the way.
Oh man.
Me and my mom love that character or love that puppet.
Oh, him and
Peanut. I like Jose Jalapeno on his steak.
Ole.
Yes, yes. But also I like Walter too because
Welcome to Walmart. Get your shit and get out.
Yes, but also Walmart. I don't know if anyone has ever brought this up, but doesn't Walter look a lot like Rhett Foreman?
He does. If his eyes were actually open.
Yes, and on top of that, he does say dumbass.
Yeah.
But no, like my mom one time said, "Oh my God, you sound like Ahmed." I'm like, that's great.
Oh man.
But my mom loves this jokes that I do about my dad, especially the ones about him. You know, I because my dad does the darndest things, you know, and it all involves his underwear. So it's just like one time we were getting ready for Father's Day, and he said, "I'm ready," and he had his white t-shirt tucked into his tidy whities, socks up to here, and he put his hand on his hip, and he did not realize he had no pants on.
Oh man.
And of course in Farsi it's Manamadeyam, and we were laughing so much to the point where he started yelling, and it happened on Father's Day out of all things. It happened on Father's Day. That's what made it so funny.
Did someone have to point out that he wasn't wearing pants, or did he find out on his own?
No, my mom was yelling because we were watching a movie in my room waiting for him, and he walks into my room, he's like, "Manamadeyam," and then my mom's like, "Chichimiki to Amade, Shalvar Nadariken." And that's what she said. She said this in Farsi. That's what makes it funnier. And then we just kept saying Manamadeyam, and then we were laughing our asses off. It's the funniest shit on earth. If you were there, you would have laughed your asses off. And he's because he's getting older, he says the darndest things, and he says things that he doesn't realize is coming out really funny.
And now it's a hilarious inside joke.
It's an inside joke. Oh, we find moments to see if he tops himself, and we said because he would do something that would be so ridiculous, and we're like, did it top that? And he's like, no, it's not even close.
Oh man.
Nah, the only thing that's come close to that is, you know, well, there's this story about, well, one time he thought his balls were too big, and he made me and I was forced to take him to go get an ultrasound.
Oh, it sounds like a South Park episode.
Yeah, it felt like a South Park. And then, of course, and of course, when they're doing an ultrasound, I'm in the room, and I'm just like trying so hard not to laugh, because if you were there, you would have busted up laughing.
You're like,
and then to hear the doctor says you have healthy, normal-sized testicles. First thing I do as soon as I exited, we got home, I called my mom, said, I am done doing the caretaking stuff. I am done taking him to all these ridiculous doctor's appointments. If I'm either gonna, it's just ridiculous. And I told her what happened. She's just like, what did they say? He has healthy, normal-sized testicles. She starts laughing. I'm like, Mom, stop laughing. Because it was so ridiculous. It's like, it's things like that, you know, like, and I don't know if it happens because of age, but, you know, there's some funny ass moments, you know, the only thing I get thankful for is he's not, you know, we live in a condo facility, and, well, he has done this before. He has walked out with his shirt off. And of course, you know, Persian Persian fathers have to walk out in hairy chest, and they see some lady and they see some girl and they're trying to set that girl up with his son. I told that once to my mom, and she's just like, we're going to have to move if he's talking to people with no shirt on. Yeah, my dad inspires a lot of shit.
It's just the slow but slowly losing layers of clothing and all right, he's at that level. We got to get out of here.
Yes. No, it's just like
the comfort level.
It's the comfort and just the fact that I think he's lazy.
Oh man.
It's ridiculous. It's like there's certain things you're just like, no, I don't want to see this. It's too creepy. But it's fun. But there's humor to it at the same time. It's like, who wouldn't find that shit funny?
Oh man.
Yeah, fathers are. You know what? It's the Dane Cook thing when he talked about his dad in the robe.
Oh.
And also, to tell the truth, I lived through that too. So I relate a lot to that when he told that story, especially when he says someday this will all be yours. It's just like I lived through that too.
You know what's really cool is as you're telling these stories, it's like it's kind of crazy because no matter what happens, good or bad, it's like there's an outlet.
Yeah.
So if there's the funny things that happen, you can go and tell them on stage and have a funny story. Like the kind of crappy things that happen. You can write a song about it.
Yeah, for me, it's just like because I like being on stage. The stage that's the place I feel comfort at. That's where I because in real life, I struggle with human interaction a lot of times because of anxiety and shit, and it takes a lot out of me, because I'm the guy who blends in the background, and usually I feel more comfortable when people talk to me because I feel more situated, or in a group, or if I'm in a group, I like when people introduce me in the group because it helps me ease my way in
instead of you having to introduce yourself.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't realize like I'm a nervous wreck when it comes to that because I overthink. Mm-hmm. So
you kind of get stuck up here.
Yeah, because I'm trying, like, especially if it's like women. Oh, that's the worst because like you're trying so hard not to like, because nowadays you could just say hello and they're scared shitless of you or they'll Me Too you. So it's just like I'm trying to be like, look, I just want to say hello.
And then they're like, I have a boyfriend.
Yes.
First thing.
Yeah, and you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. I don't want to be that guy. So it's just like, because you get afraid of being that guy, Hey. So I end up stuck in the situation where I have my iPod and I'm pacing back and forth just listening to my iPod.
Yeah.
But what's been helping me is ever since I grew the fucking beard, that's when everything changed because now everybody's like, they want to know if it's real. That's what I'm like. I'm like, it is real because some people can't get over that it's real because they're like, because it's how thick it is. I'm just like, because I don't know what is it about other people growing beards. I guess some people have beard envy. I don't know why, but
I can grow hair. It's just that the more that grows in, it kind of covers the other part.
Yes.
I think my body transferred all my hair growth to my head.
Yeah,
so that's all I have is long hair.
Yeah.
I can grow this, but that's...
Yeah, and also, here's the other thing. I had to fix my hair because if you saw what my hair looked like when I took off my hat, it was standing up. I look like one of those I'd look like a troll doll. Or I look like I had one of those, like, wavy hairdos that just, like... I don't know, like, I just can't... Like, I'm ready to pop on a surfboard and say, "Cowabunga, dude!"
Bruh.
Oh, God, if I hear... that, if you want to talk about the kiss of death, if you want to know about a friendship ending or a love interest ending, when you hear the girl call you bra every at the end of every sentence, that's what happened to me. I knew something was up when she kept calling me bra because before that she never did.
Now you're just another bra.
Yeah, and then I'm not friends with that person no more. She stopped because that's the girl who inspired most of my shit.
Oh wow, that was a very long coming around.
Yeah, and it's funny. I you know what? It's like I know it's probably gonna It's funny though. Like I wish it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. So I would like to thank my guest Habib Behain for coming on the show for our very first one again. So the new not only the new release for Dead Habib, but all of them we're able to download them on Bandcamp.
Yeah, all of them are on Bandcamp, DSBM.bandcamp.com, and same goes for Embrace the Noose.
And then social media. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm pretty much on majority of that stuff. So it's just like, I'm pretty much on all that stuff. Reverb Nation, things like that too. So,
all right. So, obviously we didn't hear anything on the episode today, but if you want to go and check out Habib, support him. Go check out his Bandcamp. Go check out any of his sites. All right. So, in addition to all those releases that are on Bandcamp already, the new Dead Habib full length is currently being recorded right now.
Yeah, it's currently recording bass, and then it's off to mixing and mastering, and hopefully I'll have a release date of early next year.
All right, cool. And then what was that next one going to be called again?
Despair That Takes a Toll.
All right. So in addition to the news about the full length being recorded at the moment, go check out Lonewolf Despairing Return, currently on Bandcamp, the new 3-song EP. And go ahead and check out Embrace the Noose, Frontline Howitzer. Lycanfrost has some material up that people can check out?
Mainly just videos. Just videos. There's not really any there's not actually anything recorded, but there are videos on YouTube, and because I recorded a lot of our shows, so hopefully I'll try to get music, but it just all the other stuff does have music, just Lycanfrost currently doesn't.
All right, right on. All right, right on. So that is it for today's episode. Once again, thank you to Habib for being an awesome guest today.
Yeah.
And I'll catch you next time.
Later.
Peace.